Some years ago, at the height of the communist persecution, all the people in the area were summoned to the centre of town. And there they were given a regular harangue by the local, as it were, evangelizer for communism. So they listened with great patience. And at the end, when he got to the end of his almighty speech, there was a slight pause, and a voice was heard from the crowd, "Christos Voskresi!" And immediately they all replied, "He is truly risen." A while back, I was talking to somebody from Romania and given to understand that for the whole 40 days, they don't say hello or ciao, they say that. I want to take you back to the moment of goose pimples when it dawned on these poor people who were ready to bury everything and go back fishing what was going on. Did you notice that already in this gospel there is a reference to light and splendor? If you look carefully at the four accounts, you will find that there is a mysterious brightness. I checked yesterday and it was already up. Do you know that this Easter is a big one? All the Christian world is celebrating the same feast, the same day. It happens about once every 5 years. And in this night, the whole planet was shrouded in light and grace. It was being embraced by heaven, and time was standing still, particularly at one point. You know which? Are you sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin. It is the account given by those who know what they're talking about. Only one exists in every generation. This was taken from the mouth of Patriarch Diodorus, who is the direct successor of St. James, Bishop of Jerusalem. Because remember, the church was one until 1054, so historically the line goes there. He was getting on in years and they wanted to know what went on in there. So he, for the first time, opened his mouth and told us what went on. This good man, Diodorus I, upon his death in September of 2000, had held this office, Patriarch of Jerusalem, for 19 years and been present at Easter for 63 consecutive years. So he consented to explain what went on. After all the lights are extinguished, I bow down and enter the first chamber of the tomb. From here, I find my way through the darkness to the inner room of the tomb where Christ was buried. Here, I kneel in holy fear, and I say certain prayers that have been handed down to us through the centuries, and having said them, I wait. Sometimes I wait a few minutes, but normally the miracle happens immediately after I have said the prayers. from the core of the very stone on which Jesus had lain, an indefinable light pours forth. It usually has a blue tint, but the colour may change and assume many different hues. It cannot be described in human terms. The light rises out of the stone as mist rises out of a lake. It almost looks as if the stone is covered by a moist cloud, but it is light. This light each year behaves differently. Sometimes it covers just the stone, while other times it gives light to the whole sepulchre, so that people who stand outside the tomb and look in will see it filled with light. The light does not burn. I have never had my beard burnt in all the 16 years I have been patriarch in Jerusalem and have received the holy fire. The light is of a different consistency from normal fire that burns in an oil lamp. At a certain point, the light rises and forms a column in which the fire is of a different nature, so that I am able to light my candle from it. See what's going on there? It's rather like what we see in the Sistine Chapel, those two hands touching and energy going from God the Father to Adam. It's that same woof that made us. And here, one of us is touching God. Same time, same channel. Midday on Holy Saturday, since at least the construction of the Basilica by Constantine the Great. When I thus have received the flame on my candles, because he has 2 bundles of 33, I go out and give the first flame to the Armenian Patriarch, and then to the Coptic, and then to the whole people. But by the time he's got out, a certain proportion has already had the flame directly given from heaven. You can see it. Woof! It goes. And those particularly who are clean, as they put it, katharoi, clean from anything morally impure, monks and nuns particularly, they tend to receive that miracle before he comes out. Before he died, about the last 2 years of his tenure of office, before he actually died, because they remain until they die there, he was already in a wheelchair, and he was able to be wheeled just to as far as there and couldn't go any further because of the small space. So he asked this other holy bishop to carry on inside. And so they asked him, eventually, what he'd seen. So this is the Bishop of Eleftheropolis, Christodoulos. Your Grace, is it true that on Holy Saturday in 1998 and 99, the Patriarch assigned to you this responsibility? It is true. Then it goes on, why? What happened exactly when you entered the interior chamber? I immediately began reading the special prayer, and when that was finished, I noticed that the tombstone had started to perspire. As time went on, the phenomenon became all the more intense, and it was as it was completely covered by liquid myrrh that came out of its interior. At the same time, along with the liquid myrrh, a very intense blue light appeared which covered the entire tombstone. At that moment, the holy oil lamp miraculously ignited. Now there's a holy lamp in there, never extinguished. It's extinguished once a year on the morning of Holy Saturday and always lit by the hand of God. And is that when you lit the bundles of your candles from the lamp? No, it was not necessary. I held the bundles of my candles over the tombstone, over the blue light, and they immediately ignited. Exactly the same extraordinary events occurred the following year as well. It goes on. How long did the presence of the blue light last? Not long, or not 1 to 2 minutes, approximately. Your Grace, at that moment, how did you feel? These things cannot be described. You come into contact with God. Lastly, we have these two from Patriarch Irenaeus and Patriarch Theophilus. Your Beatitude, does the miracle take place once you've completed the reading of the prayer or during it? Sometimes even during it. What exactly takes place at that moment? Suddenly the entire tomb fills with a holy light. It is a blue light. It is a shocking experience. Beyond us. It is a blue flame that hovers. The entire tomb is filled with this flame. It is not easy for one to express. And then this, from the most recent that we have, it's close to us now, Theophilus. What can I tell you about the rite of the holy fire? He links it with the power of faith. It is a soul-stirring experience which one lives at that moment. Now listen to the comparison. And this experience is the same as the experience of the sacrament of the Holy Eucharist, during which the bread and wine are transformed into the body and blood of Christ. The experience of the holy fire is not easily described or explained with words. One understands how small and insignificant one is at that moment. Just before, we had been spending the time looking at this face. One wound, one big insult from humanity. That's how we treated our king. And the Jews thought that was the last word. Although actually Pilate did say, "What I have written, I have written." Interesting. And this is the explosion. Modern science tells us that for this to happen, something else had to happen. For a perfect image to be formed with unknown forces on both sides of this cloth, the only way it could happen in this way, and it's been examined by the highest experts, is that at the moment of explosion, the body that left this print was, wait for it, suspended in the air. Why? It has left no trace of pleat or fold or crease. Therefore, it is not as it would be if it were just surrounded in the normal way. I just leave you, my friends, with this thought. In this miraculous fire, when it touches people, when they put it on their face, because it doesn't burn for the first minutes, something else happens. They feel a miraculous energy and peace and bliss. Energy and peace and bliss was what was felt when the Lord was encountered, when the goose pimples came, when he said, "Peace."